Welcome to another episode of Balanced Act, where we look at the practical and metaphysical teachings of this world and try to find the middle road between them to find our own balanced path. So today I want to talk about getting things done, right? The true road to success. Now, as far as that's concerned, there's a lot of different avenues, paths, trajectories you could take there. Honestly, the best thing to do here in this situation is to really study. Study those who you admire, those who are doing what you want to do, and then see how they did it and start to begin to mirror that. So for me personally, 3 years old, my father took me to see a movie called Star Wars: Return of the Jedi, just to age myself here a little bit. He took me to the premiere, not the premiere of that movie, but he took me to see it when it was originally in theaters, which was 1983. So I remember going there with my sister, Sierra. We was in the back seat of the car. I remember the whole experience. I remember even driving up to the theater. And when we sat down in those seats in that dark theater, I remember my father, he bought popcorn and Twizzlers. I remember what he got from the concession stand. It was that impactful of a moment for me. And I remember sitting down there between my father on my right, my sister Sierra on my left, and eating popcorn. My dad kept giving me popcorn, like he'll hand me the bucket and give me a couple of Twizzlers. And I'm sitting there, happy to be my dad, happy to be my sister, and then Star Wars. And I experienced Star Wars. And my little 3-year-old mind throughout the whole couple hours I was there was. So I remember how that felt. And I remember having this thought at 3 years old, being, I don't know what I just experienced, but whatever it was, I want to make other people feel the way I just felt, because up to that moment, that's the best I've ever felt in my life. I never had an experience like that before in my life. And I wanted to be able to create that experience for others. So thus, right then and there, I decided to become an artist. Woo! What a road I put myself on. So, that said, throughout my journey as an artist, a lot of pitfalls, a lot of things. The most important thing that I discovered, and this is often was often recommended to me, and definitely does work, and something I did instinctively anyway as a young person. When I was 16 years old, I actually decided that my medium was going to be comic books. It's no longer comic books, but I decided then that's what it's going to be. So I intuitively started looking at artists that I admired. Jim Lee being first and foremost. Jim Lee back in the early 90s, I would say late 80s as well. His work on the X-Men, damn, his work is quintessential to so much success in comic book industry, becoming more mainstream. I would even argue to say there probably wouldn't be a MCU without his work that he did during his time in the late 80s, early 90s on the X-Men, alongside also with, who's probably even more important to him, Chris Claremont, who was the writer during those time periods. Chris Claremont was writing for the X-Men, I believe, as early as the 70s, going into the 80s, into the early 90s. And but Jim Lee's artwork, obviously, for my generation, was the hook. That was what brought us in. And then also what led to the phenomenal early 90s X-Men TV show. So I would study people like him. I would study people like Jay Lee. I would study people like Todd McFarlane, J. Scott Campbell, Ian Churchill, all these brilliant artists. I was just doing intuitively. As I got older, I started to look at filmmakers that inspired me as a child, such as George Lucas, of course, made Star Wars, Steven Spielberg. I basically would start to look at more deliberately what was their journey to success. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who also considered to be a teacher of mine, it was another person I looked at strongly. So things I learned from them, from my own personal journey, because everybody's journey to success is going to be very different. But if you start to look at the people who are doing what you want to do, see what their journey is, it'll give you a very, very good path for you to mirror. So one thing I noticed about all the people that I was looking at is that they were all incredibly hard workers. They all very much trust their instincts, and they very much went against the grain. Like when they decided to do whatever they were doing, they were in no position to be doing it as far as what the outside world thought about them. George Lucas, his father ran like a stationery company or something like that, and he just knew that his son George was going to take over, and George was like, "No, not doing that." I think George originally wanted to be a race car driver, I believe, but then he got to a really bad accident and decided to become a filmmaker. And his father was totally, completely against it, but he did it. Jim Lee's he's Asian, I believe he's Korean. There's many Asian families, even African American families for that matter. They want their children to do something that they consider to be safe and that's going to be guaranteed to give them success, or at least financial success. So, his family was like, gotta become a doctor or whatever. And Jim Lee was going to school to become a doctor, took an art class, realized, no, I'm an artist. Went on to become an artist against the will or the wishes of his parents. So many of my heroes were like this. So I discovered that you have to really listen to your own heart, work hard as hell, and trust your instincts. Go for what you want to go for. I was listening to Joe Rogan interview Rick Rubin, and just hearing Rick Rubin trust his instincts on things, even things that seem silly and ridiculous, and then see the amount of success and beauty that he's brought to this world by inspiring the artists that he was working with as a producer was phenomenal. He was talking about the story he was working with System of a Down. One of my favorite songs ever made is Chop Suey by System of a Down. And there's this one part, one of the better parts of the song, that the singer was struggling on. He wasn't sure what to write in this part of the song. So Rick Rubin basically told him, this is ridiculous. He said, go grab a book off that shelf over there. And so then the singer of System of a Down, I don't know his name, grabbed the book. And he said, open the book. That's what Rick Rubin told the singer. Open the book, point to a passage. And he did that. And he said, read the passage out loud. He did. And he said, okay, so that's going to be the line for this part of the song that you're struggling to write for. He did that, and that was one of the better parts of the whole entire song. I believe the part was, why have you forsaken me, in your heart forsaken me? That part of the song came from that experience, and he gave a couple other examples just like that. But just imagine, just trusting your instincts that much. That's kind of a spiritual thing too. That's more of a spiritual side, like just being able to trust your own spirit. You can look at it practically as just trusting your instincts, just being lucky, being a very lucky person, right? So just trusting that feel-goodness. So there's the feel-goodness of trusting your instincts, flowing, but then there's also the drudgery, I believe, of discipline. Discipline, I think, is incredibly important to success. I also want to touch on something real quick, just to diverge a bit, on something that Jay Shetty has said. I heard Jay Shetty, when I initially discovered Jay Shetty, it was through an interview he did with Deepak Chopra. I was already listening to Deepak Chopra, and I heard Jay Shetty on this interview on Deepak Chopra's podcast. And on this podcast, he was saying that he believes that success and happiness are two different paths, or two different endeavors. So he was saying that, and I do believe this, that you can be very successful and very miserable, but you could also be incredibly happy and not have success, especially success as how we consider it within our culture, within our society. And so there are two different paths. And I personally believe that you should have happiness before you should have success. And I also believe that happiness, being a happy person, can help you be more successful, at least make the path towards success easier. So that's just me. So I digress. Back to what I was saying before. So discipline. Discipline, I think, is incredibly important to success, because I do believe you need a plan towards success. And I think a great way of getting that plan is by looking what people who came before you, see what they did, and then trusting your own instincts and deciding what's the best path for you, standing on the shoulders of giants, so to speak. So once you do that, then you can lay out the groundwork Now, I believe this should be more of a wireframe. Like, doesn't be anything written in concrete or stone, because as you take the path, you might realize that some things you're doing aren't necessarily working for you. So you may want to change things up a little bit, but that's really up to you and you. Okay? So, but nonetheless, you need a plan. So I think that you should set goals for yourself. What I personally do is I set challenges for myself. Challenges are debatable for a lot of people. Some people feel like challenges are useless. It should be more something like solid that you're going to do. But I like doing challenges. Jay Shetty, speaking of him again, just touched on this on a recent podcast of his. The idea of challenging yourself. So challenging yourself to do something. So you're going to say, in 3 weeks from now, I want to have 50 pages written for my novel. So I'm going to write a page, I'm going to write, a couple hours a day or whatever it is. So you say, in the morning, I'm writing 2 hours before I start getting ready for work. So I'm going to get up extra early to write for those 2 hours before I start getting ready for work. So now here comes discipline, right? So now you have to set up a way for you to get up at 5 a.m., write to 7 a.m., and then start getting ready for work and then go to work for 9 hours. How the hell do you do that, right? So that's the idea of discipline. You just got to do it. Now you can get yourself to do it. Like, I like to pre-pave. I like to look at things more on the spiritual side of things. I like to meditate. Pre-paving I talked about on another video, where pre-paving is basically deciding how the next segment of your life is going to be, or segment intention is rather how I refer to it in my other video. So you decide on how you're going to feel while you do the next thing that you're going to do, and how it's going to go, how that internal experience is going to be. So for me, that helps out a lot, because one of the problems I notice is that when we want to do something, but then we don't want to do it in the moment, we have a lot of resistance within our own body and within our own mind. So then that'll stop us from doing it, so we'll come up with whatever excuse. I'm too tired, I got too much stuff to do today, I'll do it tomorrow, do, and you just don't do it. Then the next day comes, and you just let a whole month go right on by, let a whole year go right on by without doing anything towards your goal, towards success. So for me, what works out best is that I pre-pave and I decide how I'm going to feel. I'm going to wake up. Might feel a little cranky, but I'm going to get right up. I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes. I'm going to read a little something, take a little walk. I'm going to drink some coffee, and it's 5:15. I'm in front of that computer. I'm writing for 2 hours. Now I'm doing that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Take a break on Saturday, and I'm doing it again on Sunday. And I'll do it. But really the key is to get yourself to do it. So however you get yourself to do it is really up to you. Whether you just get yourself up, you white knuckle, cold stone, sit down in that seat and start fucking writing, or you're a little easier on yourself and you get up and you form a routine in the morning to kind of prepare you for the next 2 hours of writing. It's kind of like, for me personally, it's like stretching. It's like stretching before you work out. So you feel kind of good when you're stretching. At least I do. I feel good when I'm stretching. Feel good. I'm stretching my arms, stretching my legs, my torso, my back, shoulders, and then I'm ready for my workout. So that's what pre-paving or segment intending for me is. It's stretching before the workout being the writing session. So whatever your endeavor is in life, whether it's finishing school, making more money, changing careers, see how others who did it before you did it. Listen to people who inspire you, even if people who have nothing to do with what you want to do. Like, I have no interest in being an astrophysicist, but I listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson all day long if you let me, okay? And that's because he inspires me. So I looked at how he did things. So even though he has a different discipline than what I'm into, I'm an artist, I'm a designer, but his path that he took to success, I can look to, because there's something within him I see within myself. That's why I like him so much. Usually if you really love somebody, and even the opposite, you really hate somebody, you see something of yourself in them. That's why you pay attention to them. So pay attention to your heroes. See what they did. Mirror what they do. Set a plan for yourself. Okay? and then begin to execute. And how you execute is through discipline. And however you need to discipline yourself to get there, do that. Whether it's something spiritual, like me in the morning, do my meditations, taking my walks, or whether it's something more practical, like you can look at my favorite example of David Goggins, where he literally just wrote down on a piece of paper, "You're a fat piece of shit," or something like that, and put it on his mirror. Or I think he wrote simply, "I'm fat," and put it in his mirror every morning. Look at that, saying, "I'm fat," and that made him feel bad, and that motivated him to go outside and run to feel better. So something, whatever, that worked for him. It may not work for everybody. I don't know, it wouldn't work for me, but that is what you need to do. So whatever you need to do in order to get yourself to do the work, that's it. And I think success is plain old simple numbers. It's a war of attrition. It's a matter of you doing the work. Do the work every day. And that's why it really got to be something that you enjoy doing, I feel, because then you'll just want to do it naturally. And even if you don't want to do it at first, once you get into the groove of it, it's like taking a jog. Like when you maybe go for the jog at first, you don't want to take that jog, but then once you in the moment of jogging, you feel better. So it's just like that. And also, I would say, on your path to success, always remember, this is not your path to happiness. Your path of happiness is something different. But success means successful at a thing. I think very much success is a tangible thing. I think it's very much more of a practical path in life. But success in a thing is really more about getting something than it is about your well-being. And that success can contribute to your well-being. Success in having a great life partner, success in having a great career, success in making more money. All those things add to your wellness, right? But they're not the source of your wellness. So that's something else I want to just touch on a little bit. The source of your wellness is within you. Success can be a very external thing, but that path to success could put you on a road of discovery and education and self-realization like nothing else. So I wish you all a great journey, and I wish you all great success. And I hope what I said today helps you along that path. Thank you for joining me again. I love you.